Hello, my name is Meagle, and this is my Broodmother guide for 6.79. The patch introduced many changes to the hero, primarily her larger webs which allow her to walk over any terrain, including the edge of the map, through trees, and so on. So, obviously, strategic use of this ability is key to how you play her in this new environment. A couple words first on item build. Quelling Blade is now a vital part of the early Broodmother kit, not only because it helps her very low starting damage, but because it is very easy to fall off your web. What I mean by this is that you cast a web and run into the forest to escape or hide at some point, as you see here. And you get stuck in an area where there's no web coverage, just barely. Rather than wait on a possible 30-second cooldown, a Quelling Blade provides easy access back to your web. Other than the Quelling Blade, I'd recommend a set of tangos and a stout shield for your starting items, and your first purchase should be turning it into a poor man's shield. In the laning phase, I'd recommend power treads for Brood as a priority purchase, since our speed on our web and web HP regen makes even the new powerful tranquils mostly meaningless. Follow this up with a Vlad's for life drain and the other stats, and proceed to working on either an Orchid or a Battle Fury, depending on the opposing lineup. Late game can vary greatly, but I usually go Manta style for the increase in DPS and survival. For talent build, spin web should be prioritized. In the early game it is actually far more effective for us than your spiderlings, which are better suited for jungle. You can poke an enemy hero, skitter away, and then poke again in between kid and killing blows on creeps. Your HP's regen on your web would ensure that even if they hit back once, they'll fare poorly in the trade over time. So spin web level 1, 3, 5, and 7 is typical. When you reach your lane, spin a web near their first tower, then one behind it closer to your tower. The reason for this is lane push. If you have a partner and the lane stays pushed near their tower, no change is necessary. However, if they push toward your tower and you need to re-web before level 3, your first web disappears and you want this to be the one closer to their tower, i.e. no gap in between your webs during laning. I would usually go with spawn spiderlings for 2 and 4, and insatiable hunger at 6. Spiderlings can be used to easily farm the nearby creep camps, which can be reached via web at level 3. If you have a lane partner, this can be an easy way to give both of you an EXP and gold edge if you can handle lane solo for a bit. At level 5, you can further extend your web to encompass the tower and behind the tower you're trying to take, and then at level 6 you can transition into one of the two strategies we'll go into in a moment. Once you're at level 6, you should make a firm attempt to take down the tower, if necessary using your ulti and spiderling spawn to cut their incoming creep waves off, or face down the enemy heroes. Be careful not to feed with your spiderlings, but if they don't have someone that can clear them en masse, spiderlings are great to take tower to fire with even if their damage is lacking. Incapacitating Bite is a great talent, but it's best left for later levels, when you have the items to go player hunting. I usually get it around level 8 when I've got Vlad's and my ulti to go along with it. Once you get your Orchid and Bite level to 4, you can take on nigh any jungler solo in your web. As I alluded earlier, there are two strategies for which 6.79 Broodmother excels. One is if the opposing team has a strong jungler, such as Chen, Enchantress, Nature's Prophet, and so on. Brood can be a fairly good counter to them. At level 7, when you finish talenting Spin Web, it is entirely possible to spin a web which will cover all of the enemy jungling area. As you can see on the minimap here, not only does my web cover all the possible jungle camps, it also allows me a point to attack their current tower when I've stayed up the spiderling horde, while being connected enough to give me many possible escape lanes. Not only does this allow you free, invisible, and fast movement, it's virtually impossible for the enemy team to kill you even with detection, as there's ample forest to run through. Ganking their jungler, or just harassing them out of jungle, goes very far in securing your team's victory. It also gives you good access to easy jungle farm, which you can use to build up your spiderlings, which you can then use to bring to the nearby lane. The other possible strategy could be transition from the first, or done on its own depending on the game. The idea is to establish a web line at the edge of the lane you're pushing, and become impossible to kill. Even if the opposing team brings all of their team to try and stop you, it's still an enormous challenge. You do this by spinning a line of webs across the edge of the map, close enough that if needed you can run them off the map in order to get away in points. You want this line of webs to eventually get to the enemy fountain so you can go there to buy items. The strategy here is to keep stopping their creep waves. If the opposing team tries to defend a wave, go forward or back along your web to a different wave, hit one, spawn spiderlings to slow it down. Go back to the wave they were defending. The end goal here is not necessarily to push down towers or barracks, although that's certainly a good thing. However, by doing all of this, you will force the enemy to leave 1 to 2 heroes, more likely 2, to stop you from pushing a wave in, thereby freeing up the rest of the map for your partners. There are a few things left to note. In the early laning stages, your bane is sentry wards placed in your 2 starting webs. To get rid of them, purchase sentries of your own, go inside the trees near the lane, and use your quelling blade to make a space. Put the ward there. This becomes much harder to detect and ward against. It is also a very good place for a ward to be if you're up against a bounty hunter, which is a very popular pick against Broodmother currently. Especially if you're dire side. Once you reach level 8 to 10 depending on items, mostly Vlads, you should be able to solo Roche without being detected, since you can web in from the tree line and your web HP regen is somewhat overpowered here. It takes a good amount of time if you're solo, so make sure there's not much else going on. Finally, your new bestest buddy in the world is Darkseer. While this isn't a new combo, it's been infrequently used in the past since Brood herself wasn't being used much, and moreover her web size wasn't really big enough to accommodate it. However, now it's very much possible to shut down a lane with Darkseer as a sidekick, simply through putting his ion shell on you and invisibly hovering near your opponents. Take care to avoid creeps so as to not push the lane. He should be trying to pull the lane toward your tower by deny hitting creeps when they're past half health. If they don't immediately buy detection, it's very easy to force enemy heroes out of the lane entirely. The Iron Shell at level 3 can also be used to quickly and efficiently farm the nearby jungle camps. Thank you for watching this guide. I hope you found it helpful. If you like what you see, please feel free to like and/or subscribe below.